Well, everybody, we are back for another Superman and Lois review. And as you can see, we are in a different location. Namely, both of us. I'm actually in the same location. Brienne is in a different place. So, Brienne, real quick, tell us, where are you at right now?
Yeah, I'm at my dorm right now. Yes, up at
Yeah,
Lamar University.
yeah, Lamar University. She's over in Beaumont. She's about an hour and a half away. But we both watched Superman and Lois, and we want to talk about it. And so we're at episode 2, right? This is the second episode of Superman and
Yes.
Lois. Hopefully, we'll be doing this going forward. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on if the show stays good. Like, if the show ends up like kind of tanking, I'll just be like, I'm done watching it, and we're not going to make these videos. But if the show is good, and if Brienne wants to keep making them with me, then I guess we'll probably just keep doing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, a little bit different structure than normal, but
Mhm.
it's kind of fun. We're going to kind of do this via Zoom. And that being said, Brienne, what did you think about Superman and Lois episode 2, Heritage?
Yes, I really liked it. I know going into the episode, I was not skeptical, but I was kind of like wondering if it was going to be as good as the first episode because I really enjoyed the first one. And I was like, okay, this is going to like tell kind of like how the rest of the season is going to go. I was like, if the second episode goes good, then we know like kind of the path of how this whole season and the show itself is going to go. But I really liked it. I thought it was good. I was like, okay, this seems like a good series. I'm in it for the long haul. I want to watch the whole thing. So
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I mean, as you can see right here, and we've talked about it in past videos, I'm a big Smallville fan. Smallville is, to this day, my favorite show ever.
Mhm.
Even though there's a lot of issues with it, there's a lot of stuff I've had problems with in Smallville, but it's still my favorite show, and it's the show that made me fall in love with Superman. And this show, I've got to say, it's doing a pretty good job. I mean, obviously, I've got this special nostalgic place in my heart for Smallville, but
Yeah.
I didn't really know if I'd ever be able to really appreciate a Superman show in the same way where it like actually captivated my attention. But I actually really enjoy what they're doing here. I didn't think I'd ever want to see Superman as a dad, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. And so that being said, let's kind of just, I guess, walk through the basic points of the plot real quick in this episode, just to kind of address what's going on. And so the last episode ended with this big reveal that the guy that Superman was kind of facing off with was Captain Luthor. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of the main plot elements of this episode, right? There's really, I guess, 3 main plots, right? There's the plot with Lois, right? Lois and everything with Morgan and
Mm-hmm.
the Daily Planet and all this stuff going on there. You've got
Yeah.
Superman, like Clark, dealing with his 2 sons, right? And
Mhm.
trying to deal with like different things going on there. And then you have Clark going against Captain Luthor, right?
Right.
So the whole episode opens up with Clark and them and the whole Kent family moving back
Mm-hmm.
to Smallville. And one of the early things that we learn about is that Jordan, the twin who, like the kind of more reclusive twin who figured out he has powers, he's going to be going to school for a little bit because he's got to learn about his powers. What did you think about that whole plot line going on there?
Yeah. I will say the idea of like the 3 different, this is kind of a tangent, but the idea that there's 3 different plot lines going on, I know usually in like movies and other shows that we watch, whenever they try and cover like more than one thing, I usually never like it. Either that or having like more than one villain, I'm usually not a fan of it because I like more when you have one story and you're able to flesh out the characters and the plot and things like that. But I will say the show does a really good job of balancing all 3 of those, and you are knowing what's going on in all 3 of them. It's not like they focus on one and kind of put 2 on the back burner or vice versa. They do a really good job at balancing all 3. So I will say that they did a good job.
Yeah.
But when it comes to him not going to school, I thought I guess it was kind of a smart decision. I think maybe because of the tendencies of like who Jordan is as a kid. He's, kind of reclusive, and I feel like that'd be kind of a lot of emotions for him to, go to school and try and deal with that at the same time. But also, I was thinking it was going to be hard for him to hide why he's not going to school whenever he is like physically looks like he's not sick or disabled or something like that, trying to explain that and hide his powers from like his friends and things like that. So I was curious to see how that was going to go.
Yeah. And there's one thing I'd be curious to see what your opinion is here. I was wondering, like, it just seemed like this was probably just a dumb move on Clark's part. I don't know why he wouldn't just take both kids to the Fortress of Solitude. Because, like that kind of gave Jonathan, who's the, we've seen that Jonathan, he's kind of been the positive kid in the first
Yeah.
episode, but he's kind of the source of a lot of the tension in this one because he's kind of getting bitter a little bit about the change in his life. And that kind of added a lot of tension by, like, you know, Clark flies away with Jordan and leaves Jonathan
Yeah.
to, like, go to school. Like, I don't get why he didn't just bring them both, because even if Jonathan hasn't been displaying powers, I would think that it's still kind of important for him to figure out where he comes from and stuff. So, like, I feel like everything that
Yeah.
learned there would still be worth checking out, and still, like, I mean, heck, it wouldn't even hurt to put Jonathan into the whole thing where they're like scanning him and stuff to maybe if he has powers, you know? So
Right, he has traces of it, yeah.
I guess maybe his mentality was like, this is something that will allow him and Jordan to bond in a way that, you know, like something that sets it apart. But at the same time, it kind of like put a wedge between the two kids.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing there. But like what you're talking about with the storylines, I think it's kind of cool because I think the reason why the different storylines work in this show, first off, it works a little bit better in TV shows than it does movies because they have more time to develop each storyline. But one thing is that Clark's, like, literally, like, his life is two different storylines going on, right? He's Superman,
right? Yeah,
you know, and so you've got both of those. So you really have like the three storylines. You have Lois, you have Superman, and you have Clark, right? So Clark's trying to bond with his sons. Lois is doing her journalism thing, and Superman's fighting Captain Luthor, right? So the three main, it's really talking about all the three main characters, right? It's Superman and Lois, but you also have to deal with Lois and Clark. So that's why the storyline kind of works, because you're attacking the same things that the whole show revolves around. And so basically, Jordan, he goes off with Clark to the Fortress of Solitude, which was a very different fortress from what we've seen in other shows. Me and you recently watched the Christopher Reeve Superman ones with all the crystals and stuff. I believe that's how they display it in Smallville. And also how I believe, I'm not sure, I think they portray it that way in the Supergirl TV show. I didn't really watched that because I tried it. It wasn't my cup of tea, which because I like the whole Superman franchise. So the fact that I didn't watch Supergirl should tell you something about that show. But I believe they portray the fortress in the same like crystalline like way like the Christopher Reeves movies. But this one's a very different one. It's literally just like a cave.
I was about to say it's like a cave, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a cave, and then like you figure out what that red rock was that Jordan had taken out of the spaceship in the first episode, right? That was turned it on, and then you have like the AI version of Jor-El coming up, and he's like, "You brought my son here. Why?"
Yeah.
Basically, this is Jordan getting to learn about his past, and he gets to learn all this different stuff about, you know, Krypton blowing up and Superman being sent to Earth and stuff. But meanwhile, back in Smallville, Jonathan is going about his first day at school. What did you think about Jonathan at school and all the stuff going on there?
Yeah, that's whenever he had the run-in with the other football players, right? So the whole scene from the first episode happened where, you know, Jordan goes to that party, ends up kissing the girl, and then she actually has a boyfriend, so then that causes conflicts. So now all the football players are being rude to Jonathan, and he like didn't give him a playbook, and you know, he was the star quarterback back in like his old town, and so now he comes to Smallville, and he's trying to, you know, prove himself, and you know, asking the coach to, you know, put him in and stuff like that, and they just make fun of him. And I honestly felt kind of bad for him because I like him as a character. Like, he's a good kid, and it was easy to, you know, empathize with him. So I did feel bad for him because it wasn't really the things they were doing really wasn't his fault. Like, kind of was his brother's fault. So the way that they were treating him, I was like, oh, well, that's probably not the best way to go about it. But
yeah, Jonathan seems like probably a more realistic character. Jordan, he seems more CW teen angst angle, where he's like he just gets dramatic about a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Jonathan, he's much more believable as like he's not a perfect kid. He does get a little bit bitter and he gets mad, but then in the end, honestly, like, not to jump to the end of the episode really, but the interaction between him and Jordan later on is so cool. Like when he's like, "I'm gonna help you figure out how you're special."
I know, so
cool. Like, so he's not the perfect brother. Like, he gets mad, that he lashes out, but overall he's still got that heart of gold. And I was like, okay, that's like I really like him because he is like a good-hearted teenager, right? So he's not perfect, but he still is like ultimately good-hearted. I think he's a really cool character. I did feel bad for him, especially because, like you said, he didn't see this whole thing. Instead, it's this Sarah girl. I think her name's Sarah. I think I called her Sam in the last video, but her name,
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sarah, she's the one who started this whole thing, and honestly, she still hasn't learned her lesson. I mean, like, I don't know if you were picking up the same things here. It seems like she kind of started like flirting with Jonathan in this episode.
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like you even see stuff where like I don't know, and then it seems like she's doing that to try to make Jordan a little bit jealous because later on, whenever Jordan sees them, like she's kind of like eyeing Jonathan. Like I'm like, what are you trying to do here?
Yeah.
Later on, at the end of the episode, whenever Jordan starts finally going to school again, you see like her like bumping him and stuff. I'm like, why are you so affectionate with these people? Like,
Yeah.
you not learned your lesson, and these guys like, have y'all not learned y'all's lesson? Like,
Yeah.
you got a
If
boyfriend.
that's her, yeah, if that's her way of being friendly, she should probably find a different way to be friendly.
As her, like, if you're her boyfriend, I mean, I'm surprised
Yeah.
you're not getting in fights every single day.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, or maybe that's what it takes. Maybe it takes her actually kissing somebody. He's like, oh, okay, now I know you're flirting. But yeah, she really hasn't learned her lesson. But she really, I mean, she hasn't learned the lesson she should have learned. It seems like she's spending a little too much time with Lana, her mom. She has learned lessons from Lana because Lana is also a flirt.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's what's going on at the school. And then the other storyline, we got Lois, right? And she's dealing with all this like reporter stuff. And I've got to say, I don't know about you. I've got to say, this episode actually did sell me on the actress as Lois Lane. I did, like, just seeing her in action here, I really, really, really enjoyed it. Like, seeing her on her own, away from Clark and them, and, you know, just going about the reporter stuff.
Yeah. I would agree.
Like, I was like, yeah, I could see this girl being, like, a really good reporter. And what do you think about
she held her own. Yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I thought that was cool. I thought the plot line with her combating this Morgan Edge guy, which he's a character from the comics, and I'm pretty sure he was even in Smallville, but I haven't watched the most recent season, like the later seasons of Smallville recently.
Yeah.
And I believe he's a character later on in there, but I don't remember that much about him. But he is like a bad guy in the comics and stuff, and so this is like a familiar character. It's not just someone they made up. But she's combating him. She doesn't like him. Something's fishy here. But I do like what they're doing with it because a lot of the thing, like he's very smooth. Like whenever she like says stuff to him, she's like, "Oh, you know what? Like you don't fulfill your promises." He immediately puts a twist on it to make it sound really good. He says, like, you know, this is at the city council meeting for Smallville.
Yes.
She stands up and she says, "You know what? I've looked at the last few cities that you've dealt with, and you just like totally ran them into the ground." And then he says, "You know, I told them that I would take a chance where nobody else would. Shouldn't we take a chance? Like something's better than nothing, right?" And I was like, that was really good. Like thinking on his feet, like he put a good spin on that. And you could see why the people of Smallville, specifically like Lana's husband, he's kind of a jerk, but you can see where he's coming from. He's like, hey, some jobs are better than nothing. Low-paying jobs are better than nothing.
Right.
The guy's gonna try. But ultimately, I'm assuming Lois is going to come out right here because, you know, she's Lois Lane. Morgan Edge is Morgan Edge. He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Probably up to something nefarious here. So I'll be interested to see what his ultimate end goal really is. But I thought it was cool. And then, obviously, just to, I guess, follow this plot line to the end, it ultimately culminates where she writes this thing against Morgan Edge, but he's the owner of the Daily Planet, and so he's not going to publish that. So he changes stuff up. She goes in there, and Lois Lane, the lead reporter, the most famous reporter in the world, and the lead reporter of the Daily Planet, she goes in there and she says, "I am turning in the best writing I've ever written." Boom.
Yep.
And I was
right when she said that, I knew exactly. Like she laid down that envelope. She's like, "This is the best thing I've ever written." I was like, "I already know it's an envelope."
Yeah.
I already know what she wrote.
It's so good. It's so good. And that lets you know they're trying to do something very different with the Superman show. Because just in the first 2 episodes, just keep in mind what's happened here. Jonathan Kent, dead. Martha Kent, dead. Clark Kent, fired from the Daily Planet. Lois Lane, quit the Daily Planet, living in Metropolis. They're back in Smallville. They're married. They have 2 kids. A story I've never seen taking place before. So literally the only thing in common is that Superman and Lois are in love. And has a cape. He's got powers. He wants to and some sort of Luthor, whether it's Lex Luthor, whoever it is, right? So those are the only things in common here. Everything else is kind of new, and I actually think that's really cool.
Yeah.
But that being said, Also, Lois Lane, in addition to being a good reporter, she's also a really good mom.
Yeah.
Scene really stuck out to me whenever Jonathan finally started lashing out at Jordan right before they were going to go to the to Lana's house and stuff.
Yes.
House. Like they started finally lashing out, and Jonathan was being like, you know what? You're just being like this Superboy character, you know, and like you're just having this good time with Dad, and I gave up my entire life for you. And Jordan's like, hey man, this is the first time I've ever been significant. You know, they're lashing out at each other, and this is where Lois just kind of like cuts in. She's like, guys, I need y'all to like just cut the crap, put that aside. You don't need to get over it. Be brothers. Like that's not the time. Like honestly, like we're gonna go to this place. We're gonna be a family. And I was like,
you tell him.
slacking on the dad side, but Lois she's a pretty good mom.
Yeah.
And then Clark's just like, all right, guys, y'all, you heard your mother.
Yeah, she's like, you heard her. Listen to her.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job because like I feel like a lot of times like TV shows and movies they always like make like the main woman character or like the mom they make it to where like she's super like whiny and like makes decisions like on the whim and like usually doesn't think about things a lot, but you can see that they really try and make her a character that's believable and is like they really like try and flesh out her character, make her a good mom, make her, you know, a good reporter and all those types of things. So I really like that because I think usually all of like the girl characters or like women characters are usually kind of the same when it comes to movies. So I like what they did with that. I thought they did good.
Yeah, you can see why a person like Superman, as grand as he is, like how this woman would like catch his attention. You know?
Yeah.
She's not just a pretty face. Like she's got something to where you're like, whoa, like when she walks into a room, you're like, okay, we're paying attention. Afraid to just like stand up in the. It's kind of funny though because you can see how a character like this would probably annoy most people. You know, like she goes to every city council meeting and she just can't help but like say something. Oh man, I realize I'm describing myself, the person who stopped talking. Oh, whoops.
See, but she's also like that. But at the same time, you see how she went into the lady that she met at the council meeting. At the end, after she quits, she goes to her and is like, "Hey, I accept your job." So you see that yes, she's powerful, and she recognizes that because she has the power to go in there and just let her down into the Daily Planet, like I quit. But at the same time, she's humble enough to walk into this place who is, you know, not big. It's run by like one woman, and she's like, I'm gonna come and join you. Like I'm the biggest reporter, and I'm gonna come here. So like she recognizes that she's strong, but she's able to humble herself, and she's not prideful. So I think it's a really good balance.
Well, her and Clark are basically the same, right? Like Clark, he has all this power, yet he chooses to use it for good. Lois has all that, like she's literally like the most famous reporter in the world, yet she willingly quits that job for the sake of doing what's right.
Right. Yep.
You can see how these two people end up together because they're both like, they have the same heart. They want to do the right thing, even if that means setting aside certain powers and not just getting what you want all the time. It's about doing what's right. And I'm like, awesome. I think that's probably a good message.
Good morals.
Right? That's good. But then the other main plot line of this whole thing that we have to talk about builds off the final tease of the last episode, which is that there's this guy named Captain Luthor. Who is basically going around. He's trying to track down some kryptonite, which, once again, I don't know what he was thinking last episode. He wanted to kill Superman. What? He literally took his last piece of kryptonite, he stabbed Superman one time and let him fall to the death. Like, if you're really wanting to kill him, I'm just saying, man, like, you gotta stab. Like, hold on to him as you're going down to the ground. Like, make sure he's dead. Like, why would you literally just, like it was so easy for Superman to just be like, nope, I'm done. Like, you're gonna waste, like, this dude, he's not a very competent villain. But you do learn a little bit more about him in this episode, right? So he's going and he's wanting to track down kryptonite so that he can once again attack Superman. And another character you kind of have to mention here is Sam Lane, right? The Lois Lane's dad, because he continues to be an ongoing character here. I didn't expect that, really. I didn't think that he was going to be like a major character in the show. I thought he was just going to be like every now and then, but he seems to be a major character. So he's really upset with Clark because, Clark reveals that he has revealed his identity to his kids, which, to be fair, that wasn't like Clark's choice. The kids found out And Clark's like, okay, I guess I'm telling you, right? So I don't really get why he's being blamed there. Also, with like Sam Lane, like Lois's dad, being in the military, I would think that he, more than anybody else, would understand Clark's situation.
Yeah.
Right? Like he would like understand, like, yes, you having this particular role is a necessary burden on your children. Because I mean, being in the military, shouldn't he understand like he put that same burden on Lois? Yet so it seemed kind of hypocritical to me that he's getting on to Superman about this. Because I'm like, you're in the military, like you did the same thing to your kids. And that's not really a bad thing. It just means you had a greater call, right? You had to go and save the world. Yeah, that's gonna be pressure. So that was kind of weird to me. But it's setting up tension for something that's going to probably maybe pay off later on with Captain Luthor. And so we have this confrontation between Captain Luthor and Superman at one point.
Yeah.
Where basically it's where was that? Mongolia? Something like that?
I think so.
I think so. Okay. And basically Superman confronts him and they start fighting it out. And what you learn is that he says, like, you destroyed my planet. So you're like, okay, so this guy, he's definitely not Lex Luthor from this planet.
Right.
But does that mean, like, is he an eight? Like, obviously, it would almost have to be a totally different timeline or a different universe. I mean, if he's talking to Superman, unless he's insinuating that Superman flew to some other planet and killed everybody, but as we learn at the end of the episode, that's not the case. So this guy is apparently a Lex Luthor from a different universe where there's evil Superman, as we'll see at the end. And I think this could be something that was explained in the other TV shows, you know, like Supergirl or something. I don't fully know. I don't think it was probably explained in detail because I think there's supposed to be a layer of mystery to it, but there might be something a little bit in there. But we learned that basically on his planet, Superman like basically was responsible for everybody's death.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing here. So you kind of understand where this guy's coming from. He's not he's not just your classic Lex Luthor out to kill Superman.
Right.
Actually, he almost views himself as a hero, which to me was slightly contradicted. Because immediately afterwards, he's like, you can either kill me or you can, you know, save billions of people from dying from this bomb that I just sent that way. So I was like, okay, so he's still a villain, right? He's still a bad because he just sent a bomb hurtling towards this like city center. To save him. So he's not totally a good guy. So Superman flies the bomb into space and stuff. It's a really cool shot where, you know, and he like falls back to the ground. But they do try to redeem Captain Luthor a little bit. What did you think about Captain Luthor storyline going on here?
Yeah. Okay, so I know the last time we filmed a video over the first episode, you talked about some story that was like in the comics or something like that had to do with like someone who was like he was related to Lex Luthor somehow, but didn't you mention something about Kal-El?
Yeah, well, Kal-El, that's just Superman's like name from.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering what that was. I was like, did David predict that? Like, did he get it right? I was trying to figure it out the whole time.
Yeah, Kal-El, that's just Superman's name from Krypton. Like Jor-El is his dad's name, Kal-El is his name, and yeah.
Okay, because I remember you talking about when you said that story, and I was like, I think David just predicted this right. And then I was like, oh, wait, maybe not.
No, that's just Superman.
Yeah. His plot kind of confuses me, and his character kind of confuses me, too. Again, you were saying there's supposed to be kind of a layer of mystery, so I guess that's why. But I'm still kind of confused on him and his purpose. I think they'll probably explain it a little bit more as we start to see how he is in the following episodes, but he still kind of confuses me as of now.
Yeah, there's a lot of mystery there, and I'm interested to see what they do with it because there is a Lex Luthor. I know this for a fact. John Cryer plays Lex Luthor in the other, like in the Supergirl TV show and stuff. So that's already like, okay, is this supposed to be a Lex Luthor from a different universe, or is it like one of his descendants or something? That's the thing that really because John Cryer, who plays Lex Luthor and the other stuff, he's white. This guy is African American. So I'm trying to figure out like, okay, like what's going on here? I'm assuming it's still supposed to be Lex, just like I guess in a multiverse, like in a different universe, like I guess potentially somehow he ended up being African American. But that's the thing that's confusing me. But also, I don't know how much they're tying this show into the other universe, like the Supergirl stuff, because like I said,
Yeah.
Fortress of Solitude is different. So it's almost making me think that this is like they're just using the same actors for Superman and Lois, and they're kind of doing their own thing. I don't really know what's going on there.
Yeah.
But so at the end of the episode, just to kind of get there, at the end of the episode, we have this whole thing where finally Captain Luthor, you know, he lands and he basically figures out where all the kryptonite's at. And basically, General Lane has been storing it all up. Presumably, like he says that it's because he wants nobody else to have access to the kryptonite so they can't harm Superman. Part of me thinks it's also a contingency plan in case Superman ever went evil. But Luthor comes there to get the kryptonite, and he starts talking to Sam Lane as if they were friends. Says, hey,
Yeah.
where I'm from, you were one of us. You were fighting on my side against Superman. And he like, you know, has this like pendant and stuff like that where it has like the S on it and stuff. Basically, they were like rebels against Superman.
Yeah.
And all this stuff happened to where finally, you know, Superman flies in and like cuts him off and like starts beating him up. And it turns out it was a robot, right? It wasn't even actually Luthor inside the suit. So like, what's going on here? And then it just pans out and you see Luthor watching like the TV. And he says, to hell and back, General. And you're like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like, what's that? To hell and back? Immediately, you realize that sounds like something that like two soldiers would say to each other. You know?
Yeah.
Hell and back. You're like, okay, cool. And then it cuts to some more stuff in the episode. But then you get to the very final scene of the episode. And you have it to where he's looking at that thing again. And he flips it over, right? And instead of, like, it says hell, but when you it says 7734, which I don't know what that means. I don't know, like, he's like the number that they were like, maybe, you know, they were like rebels and stuff or something, and they like were assigned numbers. I don't fully know if there's significance to that. Well, I mean, there has to be significance, or else he wouldn't have turned it over to reveal that.
Right.
Then it cuts to a flashback, and see all these people like fighting in trenches and stuff, and there's like lasers going off and everything, and then you see a black suited Superman flying in the middle of the air, and he just goes out and just like lasers everybody.
Yeah.
And you're like, and it makes you realize, oh wow, that's what Superman could do. And people always tell, like, I hate when people say that Superman isn't an intriguing character, because the intriguing thing about Superman is that he has all this power, yet he chooses to use it for good. And so whenever you introduce an evil Superman, that's a good way of showing why Superman's interesting. Because Superman could be. And if any of us got those powers, we probably would be like that. We would very quickly become tyrannical. I don't know what caused this Superman to go evil, but he did. He's wearing a black suit. He's lasering people, and presumably he kills Sam Lane. I don't know if either that or he injures him really badly. But and that's where you see Luthor and them talking, and they're saying to hell and back and stuff. And so you realize they fought together against Superman.
Right.
It's like, you know, that's how the episode ends. So what about that kind of reveal at the very end?
Yeah. It was really confusing. I was kind of trying to figure out what was going on, because obviously that is not in the universe that they were in. I was like, okay, so we're like in some like alternate universe. I was like, either that or this guy's like believing this is real, or he like thinks that it's real but it's not actually. So I'm interested to see how they're gonna like make that pan out. But I also was excited that they did that, because now we got to like see a little bit more of the villain. I was like, okay, we got some depth now, so that's good. But still the plot's kind of confusing, so I hope that they like continue with that so we can figure it out, because it seems like they're going somewhere with that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, the idea, like even his robot, like little, I guess, AI person or whatever, like or something, it said to him, hey, this isn't your Kal-El. And he said, I know he's not yet. So he knew, okay, this guy, like he admits that this Superman is a good person. That's how he knew, like if I send him that way, Superman will go stop him. So he's not even worried about this Superman being evil right now. It's almost like the idea whenever people talk about going and like killing like baby Hitler.
Oh yeah.
Like it's almost like that's the idea he's got here. He's like, I'm trying to cut it off before he goes bad. In that way, it's almost very similar to Batman versus Superman. If you remember that movie, because that's like Batman's whole thing. He's like, if there's even a 1% chance that he's evil, it's our duty to stop him. And
Mhm.
that's Captain Luthor's whole thing here.
Yeah.
So that's the end of that episode. And so basically, the different things, if we're following all the storylines, basically Lois, her storyline ends with her quitting the Daily Planet. She's now going to be working for the Smallville Gazette, and I'll be interested to see what they do with that. If Lois
Mhm.
handedly will be able to make, honestly, watch her. I would love if like that's what they were doing. Morgan Edge is coming to like steal their attention, like to try to destroy the town basically. And Lois
Mhm.
comes in here by writing from the Smallville Gazette. She's going to attract everybody's attention to Smallville. People are going to come in. They're going to get jobs. Watch that happen. That'd be cool.
That would be.
So that's where that thing ends. The storyline with the kids,
Mhm.
you have Jordan being dramatic. I do like that they revealed that Jordan was named after Superman's biological father, right? So you've got
Yeah.
Jonathan named after his earthly father, and Jordan is named after Jor-El, his Kryptonian father. I hadn't made that connection
Yeah.
before, and I was like, oh, cool. I was wondering where they got the name Jordan, but now it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have this very heartwarming scene at the end of the episode where, you know, because Jordan, he's just being a whiny butt because he realizes, oh man, I'm not as powerful as my dad. And I'm like, dude, you still have superpowers. Like, get over it.
Yeah.
Like, he is frustrating me so far. I like Jonathan. Jordan, they still got to sell me on because he's a little bit too angsty.
Mhm.
But at the end of the episode, they do have this really heartwarming scene that was like, oh, that's good brotherly like love right there. Where
Yeah.
Jonathan's like, hey man, I'm sorry. I know like I was kind of being a jerk to you later, like before and stuff, but I just want
Mhm.
you to know I don't care what some dumb computer says. I know you're special, and I'm going to help you find that out. And I was like, oh, that was good.
Yeah. It was.
And then the final storyline with and also Clark sits them down and talks to them. Hey guys, like I know I haven't been the best dad, but you got to realize I've got this big responsibility. I'm
Mhm.
better to be a better dad. And so that was good. Like he's just saying, be patient with me. Now that y'all know my secret, y'all at least know why I'm absent sometimes. You know,
Mhm.
I like that he's going there. And then obviously the Superman storyline, it ended with that big reveal that apparently on some alternate
Mhm.
universe or something, Superman's evil. So that's
Yeah.
episode 2. And then obviously we've probably talked way too. I've talked. That being said, just closing thoughts. What are your final thoughts about this episode, and what do you look forward to going forward?
Yeah. I will say one thing that I think we didn't really address. We kind of did, but that I thought of that I just remembered whenever I was watching the show. Whenever, because you mentioned about him like sitting his kids down and talking to them. The one thing that annoyed me about the show is that they get so mad whenever their dad isn't there and like isn't apparent. Like they get like you see it like in their face, like they physically are like, and they like get so disappointed. But even Lois's Lane's dad was like, well, why would you like reveal that to your kids? Like, why would you let them know? It's like, well, they're in high school. Like, I feel like if any, like, you need to let them know eventually. But he acts like it's such like a like detrimental thing. But I'm like, your dad is Superman. Like, they should know. Like, they should know that. They should know why he's absent. But then I feel like the kids also shouldn't be so disappointed whenever he's not there. Like, he's going to like save the world from a villain. It's like either he goes off and you're not with him, or everyone's going to die. So it's almost like I kind of get confused why they get so disappointed all the time. Which I know, you know, they would want their dad to be there, right? They don't want them to be absent all the time. But like, they're just at like a neighborhood like meal. Everyone's just like hanging around, and they like get so disappointed that their dad leaves that. I'm like, well, you weren't even in the same room with them. You weren't like talking with him or anything. It'd be different if it was like, I don't know, y'all were like eating dinner, just the four of them at their house, or they were like at a birthday party for their sons, or like something that was more like specific to their family. But the fact that they were just at like a dinner or like get together at a house, and they got so disappointed by that, and then Lois's dad is so like attacking him for doing that. I just never really understood that. So I will say that kind of confused me a little bit, or kind of annoyed me.
And honestly, to be fair, I mean, honestly, this probably isn't saying anything good for Clark. It's saying something negative about our culture, but I think it's actually more present than a lot of fathers are in real life.
Yeah, and
like,
he's
whenever you
juggling
look
way
at
more.
it, he's not being like a horrible dad. I mean, he's not the best one, but he's still more present than a lot of them are. So he's doing a pretty good job doing both. But it is weird to me that his wife's father is encouraging him to keep secrets from the family.
Yeah.
Is that really what you want to encourage? Like that, I don't know. Like, just think that one through a little bit, buddy. But yeah, so that is kind of weird. I still really do like the show. Like if you're watching this, we're just like bashing it. We're
Yeah.
because we do like it, and we're criticizing things just because that's what you got to do sometimes, right? But that being said, what are your final thoughts about episode 2?
Yeah, I really liked it. Like I said at the beginning, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm excited to see where they go with the show. I think it's really cool. I haven't seen a lot of Superman stuff, so like I can't like attest to it based off everything, but like the little bit of Smallville that I've seen and like some of the Superman movies, I'm like, okay, I'm liking it. It's cool. It's different from all the other ones. So I'm excited to see where they're gonna take it. I like all of the characters. The only one I really don't like is the girl, but Sarah, is that her name, right?
Sarah.
Yeah, that's the only person that I don't really like. So we're on a good track. Yeah, I'm excited. I think they're in future episodes probably gonna develop the antagonist a little bit more, the Lex Luthor. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm excited.
Cool, me too. I really like this show. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I am excited to come back for episode 3 when we watch it this week. That being said, do you have anything else you want to say, Brienne?
I don't.
All right. Well, that being said, I am David.
And I'm Brienne.
And this has been Now Let's Be Honest About Movies. Bye.